Hi, I'm Melvin Way, and this is the first video in what will hopefully someday become an epic series on how to grow American ginseng from stratified seeds. So I bought these off the internet for cheap, just a few dollars, and I got 31 seeds. You can see they kind of resemble cat or dog food, but they have these slits in the sides. Basically they're dirt colored, but through stratification they've already come a fair bit in terms of their development. So stratification is a process in horticulture by which certain plant species seeds need to be treated for a period of usually 2 months at temperatures slightly above freezing, and it has to be moist too, and what that does is it helps break up the seed shells and generate biochemical changes inside the embryos for germination. My first order of business will be to sterilize some soil so I can try germinating some seeds in that. I'm preheating this oven to 250 Fahrenheit. It's well above the boiling point of water. And I'm going to heat this glass dish of potting mix, which is mostly wood chips and some slow-release nutrient capsules, to kill off the eggs of any pests such as springtails, spider mites, and fungus gnats. So those can be really serious pests if you don't take care of them beforehand. I'm going to let this cool down and then plant some seeds in it. Next order of business is I'm going to use some hydrogen peroxide. I'm going to dilute this from this 3% solution down to 0.5% and use that to soak these seeds in for a few minutes, like 10 or 20 minutes should be fine. And this will help cleanse them. It won't hurt any plant or animal tissues. It's very safe. And I did the mixing in this spray bottle that I've used in other plant growing experiments, filled up to the 10 mark and added to the 12 with hydrogen peroxide 3%. And I'm just going to spray my seeds and do a little bit more swirling. That should kill off any fungi or bacteria that could be very harmful to the development of these embryos. So it's been sitting here for 20 minutes I think, and basically I rinsed them with some distilled water, and I'm going to plant 9 of those seeds. I put them in a matrix, 3 being on the dirt directly, 3 being buried, a centimeter deep, and 3 others right here, here, and here, buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep. It's hard to be very exact in this kind of environment. What I've done just now is I've watered with some hydrogen peroxide from the spray bottle, 0.5% again, and what I'm doing is I'm just slowly soaking this. If I poured it, it would result in total chaos, and the dirt might flip because there's a lot of airspace in this very dry potting mix that just came out of the oven and cooled down. I've put on labels with packaging tape. This side has the seeds on the surface, and this will face the shade during the day when I have the blinds open from my balcony. This has the seeds 2 to 3 centimeters deep, and this side will face the sun. So that way you have different conditions going on in 2 dimensions. So I've separated the rest of the seeds, 11 each, into these 2 Pyrex Tupperware glass containers. I'm going to spray some hydrogen peroxide, and that will provide water and a lot of dissolved oxygen, which the plants are going to be using at this point. They're not photosynthesizing, so no carbon dioxide will be used. And I'm going to keep the lids askew, let them air out a little bit while I put them in different conditions. I've labeled one glass dish as PC and the other as sunlight. So the PC one will go on top of my personal computer. It's warmer but almost completely dark there. And the other one will go in the sun where it'll be a few degrees Celsius colder, but it'll get natural light coming in through. Just for reference, it's 10 p.m. Sunday, November 3rd, and this will be day 0. And on the PC, as you can see, it's 3.3 Celsius warmer, but it's completely dark. And this is the next day, day 1. You can see an example of the ambient light coming in during the morning, but the days are very short this time of year. So it's day 2, and we're looking at the surface of the soil. On the left you can see the seeds. They look kind of dry. I'm going to add some more water in here, but basically not much has changed at all, and pretty much I didn't really expect anything to happen within such a short amount of time. So we're going to be facing very long periods of downtime, and I'll get more into that later. But for the time being, I'm going to show you some macro footage, close-up footage. I have no idea why it's not named micro footage, because you're zooming in and taking a look at things. When I say microscope, I think of zooming in and looking at tiny microbes. But anyway, not much has happened, and I didn't really expect anything to happen in 2 days. The seeds are very clean and in this sterile environment with a mild solution of hydrogen peroxide. So I'll use this downtime to give you a formal introduction to this plant species. So when you think about ginseng, people traditionally thought of Chinese ginseng, which grew in this region known as Manchuria, sort of around Mongolia, Korea, Siberia, northern China, that sort of region. What American ginseng is, it's in the same genus, meaning it's closely related, but it's actually not the same species. This is called Hua Qisen, or westernized Western ginseng. And it's similar in that it's a herbaceous perennial plant. American ginseng is in the ivy family, and it lives naturally in the regions known as the Ozarks and Appalachia in the eastern United States towards the north, and also in the surrounding forested regions of New York, Pennsylvania, and Ontario in Canada. So this likes cold, brutal winters. Well, it doesn't really like cold, brutal winters, but it's evolved to only germinate in places like that. It needs seed stratification. It's a process that it's evolved in the history of this species to deal with the winters and make sure the seeds germinate after winter has passed for sure. Otherwise, if they germinate during winter, they'll die. So yeah, that's why you don't see this growing, say, in the mountains where it's cool and moist in riparian zones in California. It needs cold winters, and in places like here in San Diego, you just don't get those cold winters for the seed stratification to occur. So it's day 4, and the one on the PC where it's 28 Celsius, it dried out. I left the lid ajar on purpose, and it kind of has a bad smell. You know how humans smell if they haven't showered for a few days, or if they ran a lot outside, sweat a lot, and haven't showered? Well, this is sort of like the plant seed equivalent. I'm going to spray some more freshly made 0.5% hydrogen peroxide solution. That'll keep these seeds hydrated and sterile. I don't know what caused the smell when they dried out, but that can't possibly be good, having the seeds desiccated like that. So these are the seeds sitting in a dish with hydrogen peroxide in the sun, and it's not on top of my PC, so it's 3.3 Celsius cooler, and it looks like there's been some expansion. I wouldn't go as far as to say that this is growth of any kind, but it looks like, because they're well hydrated, they look bigger. I can't believe it's already day 14. So as you can see with a potting mix dish here, there's a row in front, 3 seeds, that one, and I can't even find the other one. Everything blends in so well. Maybe something shifted around when I was watering ever so gently. You won't be able to see anything in those other 2 rows because everything's buried. So no real changes there. And it's 24.5 Celsius. Humidity is typically low in San Diego, 30 or 40%. 40% is pretty common. So on this PC dish, these things are practically swimming in hydrogen peroxide. It's a very sterile environment, and it looks like the seed embryo is sticking out there. Or, is that just due to waterlogged expansion? Or is it because, the embryos are actually getting bigger? Or the seed husks disintegrating and appearing smaller by relation? I don't know. So they do appear just, sort of bleached, so to speak. Everything's kind of white and puffy and very sterile. But in the absence of fungal spores and bacteria, no rotting can occur. And since plants have cell walls, they won't lyse either, no matter what the osmotic pressure is. So here's the group that's been sitting in so-called sunlight, although sunlight is so weak and it has a lid that's opaque. But sunlight gets in. These are dark for whatever reason. I know the seeds started off kind of dark like that, but is this some kind of algal growth? I'm not too sure. Maybe it is. Not sure at all, but I don't think microorganisms can really survive in this hydrogen peroxide environment. So these things look a little bigger than the PC group. I don't know why that is. Okay, it's day 35. It's been more than a month. So let's see what's happened to these 2 experimental groups. This is the sunlight one, and at first glance it doesn't look like much has changed at all. And I haven't really noticed anything. Nothing is rotting, despite these seeds just swimming around in water all the time. And it looks like the embryos, some of them are a little bit of an orangish color, and that's markedly different from what I'm going to show you later for the other group. So I think there's some promise here. Maybe there's some developmental changes, color change. I definitely take that as a good sign for this PC experimental group. Everything just looks a lot more white, puffy, and bleached. Well, I say puffy, but actually I think the seeds look bigger for the sunlight group. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, Melvin Way's channel on YouTube. And I have specific folders, so to speak, or playlists for each one of my plant growing series. I have other things going on as well, weight training, body transformation, animal plant videos, insect videos, things like that. But for these plant growing videos, I'll have a playlist that you should bookmark and come back to from time to time to check out my progress for American ginseng growth. I've been having a huge fungus gnat infestation lately for anything grown indoors in potting mix. So potting mix is just, a bunch of wood chips really. It doesn't really resemble real soil in my opinion, but it's what's commonly sold in stores. So you can see these two seeds here on the top. Third seed, I don't know where it went, and the other 6 are buried, so you won't even be able to see them, but I'm not really seeing any changes here. So I'm going to do a bunch of work to prepare a new growth medium and see if that improves things, because when you look here, when you zoom in, you can see a patch of mold growing on top of that seed husk, and that's a really bad thing. It's not a sanitary environment. Mold can kill off seed embryos. This concludes the first 35 days of my American ginseng seed germination experiment, so stay tuned. Please subscribe to my channel and bookmark this playlist.